Finally, we had Donald Trump talking about yesterday. He's addressing at 9 p.m., addressing American people about the war, his update on war, which was nothing, new about what he was talking about. But here is what he said in terms of, particularly that line of attacks, attacking civilians and infrastructure in Iran. Here is what he said.
Mm-hmm. Period of time, no deal is made. We have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective.
Yeah. I can confirm each and everything that he said is 100% lie. When it
yeah, these are monster. It's one monster lie after another. Well, by now, I would say even grains of dust in the Sahara Desert know that this kind of information is being fed to him, especially by the Three Stooges, those absolutely disgusting infrahumans, the Secretary of Forever Wars, Jared Kushner, and Witkoff. These are the people who are feeding him these lies that he reproduces because obviously he doesn't read shit. So obviously he doesn't do fact checking of anything. And obviously, if you are around him, you have to kiss his ass. Otherwise, you lose your job. So much worse than all that, Nima. It's the line that it's been going all over the world that formalized, in fact, which formally already indicts him as a war criminal. The only place left for the baboon of Barbaria is on a war crimes tribunal, where he's going to be condemned and preferably exiled to a high security prison with forced labor to the rest of his miserable days. He says that he's going to bomb Iran to the Stone Ages. He could not even pronounce it correctly instead of Stone Age. To the Stone Ages. Well, to be very lenient and diplomatic, we can say that when his ancestors were still trying to make fire, the real barbarians, Iranians were already an extremely civilized empire. So that starts with that. To put in context, who are the real barbarians, right? But the most worrying development, and obviously this was not condemned by the UN, was not condemned by anybody, was not condemned by the West. You have the President of the United States basically characterizing himself as a war criminal on live TV for the whole planet, and nothing happens. Well, at least it's all clear now what these people are. Not only himself, but the people who are advising him, and especially the people who keep him on a leash because of the compromat that they have on him. So that's one of the reasons why he needs to go. He needs to keep going this madness for, he says, another 4 weeks, but it could be even more. And what's going to happen in these next 4 weeks? They're going to bomb the infrastructure of Iran to rubble. everywhere. It's going to be, it already is, and it's going to be even more horrible. And there are no limits. They are bombing pharmaceutical plants. They are bombing like they bombed bridges, including the B1 bridge from Tehran to Karachi. It's a beautiful bridge.
Yeah.
Was inaugurated only a while ago. It's the highest bridge in the whole of West Asia. Essential because this connection, highway connection, Tehran-Karachi, is one of the most important in Iran, as you know, Nima. They bombed the Institut Pasteur, which I've been to a few Institut Pasteurs around the world. They are essential as health centers, vaccination centers, scientific research centers. This one in Iran, if I'm not mistaken, it comes from the 1920s. And that's it. And they're bombing, I just saw 5 minutes ago, they're bombing, once again, civilian neighborhoods in Tehran and across Isfahan as well. So this is what they're going to do. It's out of impotence. It's out of blind rage. It's envy because they're a bunch of piece of shit, uncultured barbarians. And that's their revenge against Iran. If you are a sovereign resistance civilization, nation, civilization, state like Iran is, no, this is, for them, this is what, it's the absolute opposite of everything that they preach about and they pose that they're standing for. No, they're worse than barbarians. So-called barbarians, and I'm a big fan of nomad empires, which used to be qualified by the settled empires as barbarians, including the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. They qualified non-settled peoples as barbarians, but they had many redeeming qualities, including artistic ones, like the Scythians, for instance. These people, they have absolutely nothing. The only thing that they have is powerful bombs. And obviously, out of their impotence, and now that they, especially the ruling classes of the Empire of Chaos, they are seeing the whole scam that they built after 1945 collapsing in front of their eyes. We can barely imagine how resentful they are. But we can understand where this rage is coming from. There's not going to be any more free lunch for all of you. And it takes one resistance nation, sovereign, to collapse the whole house of cards. But I'm very, very depressed by what awaits the people in Iran and Iran in the next few weeks. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible because it's the only thing they have left, Nima. There's nothing. They lost all the military bases. They lost most of their assets everywhere. They have troops living in hotels. They lost the control of the Strait of Hormuz. They're losing the control of the petrodollar. Soon they're going to lose most of those stupid Gulf petromonarchies. Two of them already are composing with Iran, Oman and Qatar. Sooner or later, the other ones will have to do something, otherwise they're going to be disappeared. They're going to become a mere foot, not even a side note of history. Especially the Emirates, which, for all practical purposes, they are already at war with Iran. So they are, for all practical purposes. Whatever they say, it doesn't matter. They are at war. They are facilitating attacks by the Americans. There are lots of U.S. military personnel, especially around Dubai. So get ready. They're not going to last long if it goes on like this. And the Iranians, they know everything that's happening everywhere, and they're making notes. They have names, they have locations, they have satellite information, you name it. And Saudi Arabia is the big joker in the pack, Nima. We still don't know where they are leaning to. Things changed. since the kiss my ass saying coming from the baboon of Barbaria. MBS with his ego, wow, he's planning a long-term revenge. And it will be very painful for the Americans. It already started. He already said that he's not buying weapons from the US anymore. So we can presuppose that they're going to start buying from Russia sooner or later. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, there is a phone call today, Anima, Putin MBS. I wonder what they're going to talk about. This is going to be fun. There'll be no leaks, but this is going to be fun. So this is changing. So what we have left is Bahrain. Bahrain is going to collapse. That monarchy is going to disappear. Kuwait, sooner or later, like our Iraqi friends are already theorizing, probably is going to be annexed back as back to the governorate of Basra, which it was before, of course. So we have the Saudi Arabia joker. So this is going to be quite something to follow.
I think it's important, Pepe, what's going on in terms of Saudi Arabia and UAE. There somehow you see some sort of fracture and difference looking at the two states. They had it before this war happening in Yemen. They were somehow fighting each other. And right now, as time goes by and what the reality of war is happening, the reality is coming up to the surface. You see, these phone calls have meanings. We have to understand, why do they need to call Vladimir Putin? They did it before, and right now again he's doing this. And because after all, let's assume Donald Trump was talking about selling F-35 to Saudi Arabia. What does that mean for Saudi Arabia? Nothing.
Nothing. So yes, and this whole thing changed radically. The week is not even over, but the whole thing really changed during this week, starting with that quad in Islamabad. Very important to remind all of you. It was not a Sunni axis. This is bullshit. People who are spewing that out, they have no idea what they're talking about. Was 4 Muslim nations that got together over the Organization of Islamic Conference, over the GCC, over whatever multilateral organization, Islamic, Muslim, etc., with Pakistan more or less as the coordinator. So Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. Theoretically, they were discussing what they could propose as a sort of let's say, a crypto approximation between Washington and Tehran. So they go to Islamabad, they have this blah, 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 everybody's smiling. Smiling about what? The photos are pathetic. You have these 4 stooges smiling like they are in a country club. Okay. So obviously they didn't come up with anything very solid. This explains why the foreign minister of Pakistan had to hop on a plane the next morning and go to Beijing to talk to the people who really count, the Chinese. So he went there to meet Wang Yi. Right. This was obviously discussed before. The Chinese obviously, because they have a close relationship with Pakistan, China-Pakistan economic corridor, etc. They said, okay, you go there, you discuss, but as soon as you finish, you come here to tell us if you arrived at something. Obviously, the Chinese knew that you would arrive at nothing. But, and that's the major but, after Dar meets with Wang Yi, they release a 5-point joint statement. And when you read that joint statement, I read the joint statement, I think at least 3 times. I say, are they really saying that? Because it's a collection of cliches. Like, if they believe that the United Nations Security Council or people will be respecting the UN Charter when the US can veto anything. It's completely absurd. So this was not we can interpret it as I try to interpret it as a Chinese diversion tactic to appease everybody. But the real discussions are going to be between China, Russia, and Iran, but in the background, not with these four. So, Pakistan had a momentary protagonist role setting up this meeting in Islamabad. Now nobody's talking about Pakistan anymore because the whole thing collapsed during the week already. And even before the Stone Ages rambling, blah, 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 by the baboon of Barbaria. But this lasted for maybe 2 days maximum. And everybody knows that what really matters will be discussed by the new Primakov triangle, RIC, Russia, Iran, China. And of course, the Chinese are not going to play their game in public. This is going to be very discreet. Another reason why the Chinese could not possibly endorse anything that was discussed by the four Muslims. How can the Chinese possibly be the guarantor of a so-called peace plan and take the risk to be the guarantor when they know that they are dealing on the other side? They are dealing with a bunch of barbarians on the other side. For them, remember Lavrov, the United States is non-agreement capable. That's even more forceful now than before applied to Ukraine. Now applied to Iran, the same thing. So the Chinese will never risk their diplomatic reputation. So that's why the conversations that really matter will be between the RIC, the new Primakov triangle, Russia, and we will only know at the last minute. And just to finish this stretch, Nima, yesterday, the Iranian ambassador in Moscow comes up, he gives an interview to TASS, and he reiterates the same Iranian points from the beginning, now reduced to 4. There used to be 9, then 5, but the 4 main ones, everybody knows the 4 main ones. End of the war, end of their new sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, guarantees that they won't be attacked again. This means guarantees at the level of UN Security Council. It doesn't matter much because the Americans break any guarantees, but there's got to be a guarantees that the whole planet can see that it's a document over there. And if the Americans break it, it's proven that they broke it. And of course, the nuclear program, the civilian nuclear program, continues. Everybody knows this. So when you compare these 4 points with the China-Pakistan 5 points, there's a lot of discrepancy. So the only rational explanation is that the Chinese didn't want to compromise themselves with anything, knowing that they cannot trust many, I would say most of these other Muslim nations. Pakistan, maybe because they have a closer relationship. They cannot trust Turkey. They cannot trust Egypt, even though Egypt is a BRICS member, but Egypt basically, their government is aligned with the Zionists. And Saudi Arabia, once again, the wild card, the joker. Nobody knows where Saudi Arabia is going next. So this whole thing, Nima, it's amazing. It lasted less than 3 days. After 3 days, the whole thing collapsed, and the new narrative was Trump is going to announce a land invasion. Or he's going to announce that he's bringing the troops home. A lot of very well-informed American analysts were saying before, he's going to announce that he's bringing the troops home because he's looking at the numbers, he's looking at his popularity plunging to a dark abyss, he's looking at the bond market, he's looking at the oil market, he's looking at the SP 500. In the end, this is what we saw. We saw an unhinged psycho killer basically saying that they want to destroy a nation of 90 million people. What kind of de-escalation is that? This is even worse than a land invasion. Any land invasion, as we all know, Nima, is condemned to beyond failure. It's not even failure. But this is worse. This is a deliberate bombing of the infrastructure of a whole state, and with no discrimination. The way he framed, obviously, his English is an English of a 3-year-old maximum. But the way he spoke it, reading his own teleprompter, by the way, is that this is an extermination, a decapitation campaign against the whole population of Iran. And that's why it's so serious. And it doesn't, I'm not surprised by the fact that there's not a single repudiation coming from the so-called international community. Nothing. Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah. Pepe, I think you're right about
this way. Sorry if I ask you. I would like to ask you a question.
Go
Did
ahead.
you interpret his speech the same way?
Yeah, I did. I literally think that he's gonna attack each and everything in Iran when it comes to the hospitals, pharmaceutical plants, schools, universities, everything, highways, everything. He's gonna destroy. He wants to destroy everything before leaving the Middle East. That's the plan on his part, because from the strategic point of view, the whole operation was a total failure. He couldn't do anything militarily to defeat Iran militarily and strategically. That's why he's attacking civilians, because he wants to bring the pain to the society. He wants to put the Iranian economy in some sort of turmoil, problems, popping up in Iran. This is what he's planning for, because he couldn't do it militarily, strategically, defeating Iran. But the repercussions of what he's gonna do and what he has done so far are grave for the whole region. It's unbelievably that I think that's important to consider, how that would influence the whole region, not only the Arab states, together with Israel. I would say, is Israel going to survive that? This is, I think, as time goes by, with 2 or 4 weeks ahead, Iran gonna hit Israel the way that they have never experienced before. They're gonna hit everything in Israel if the United States start or continue on this path. I don't know how is that going to play out for Donald Trump. How do you see the pressure on Israel? How do you see the way that Iran would bring some sort of disaster? Israel would somehow stop everything, gonna stop in Israel.
Which would be the next logical step in the Iranian strategy? Raise Israel to the ground, paralyze the functioning of the Israeli economy and the Israeli state, attack all their key nodes, basically paralyze them, make that mini state non-viable. They have 4 weeks to do that. Considering that they have not even started properly, 4 weeks is more than enough to destroy most of what carries some sort of value in Israel. Connectivity corridors, research centers, scientific centers, especially all the military nodes, all the special military. Israel basically it's small, but it's an enormous military base. So hit all the key nodes of this military base. They can do this in 4 weeks. And then obviously we're going to have once again a phone call to the White House, and all bets are off on what the baboon is going to say. He could say, there's nothing I can do to help you. He can say, look, I'm leaving this war, it's not my war. Or he could double down and bomb even more of Iran. We don't know what might happen, but there's a serious possibility that he will extricate himself. Of course, he cannot do that because we all know why. The donors, compromise on Epstein files, you name it. But considering that now he is, if there was a psychological examination of his brain at the moment, the result would be lunatic asylum straight away. Considering that he now is completely unhinged, anything is possible. As long as he has something after these self-imposed 4 weeks to sell to domestic American opinion, not to the world, because nobody around the world is buying anything he says anymore, but to a fraction of US public opinion, that he won, which is the famous, okay, that's it, we bombed everything, we won, let's do something else. Which is what he could have said that yesterday. He had an opening to do that yesterday. He decided, perhaps at the last minute, to prolong it for another 2 to 4 weeks. Once again, and now our analysis of destruction of Iran as much as possible totally fits. In his revengeful mind, that's it. Since I could not win, I'm going to destroy them. But obviously, he's not calculating, because he doesn't, because he's not a strategist. He's not calculated the amount of punishment that Iran can deliver to Israel in the next few weeks. So that's why we still don't know how he would react by the end of April. Because in his mind, this thing ends one way or another by the end of April, because in May, there's the trip to China. He needs to arrive in China with something. He cannot arrive in China as a defeated potentate. And, of course, starts thinking about the midterms already. And, of course, in parallel and inbuilt in all that, there's the destruction of the global economy. If this thing goes on for another 4 weeks, then the destruction of the global economy is irreversible, and it's going to take years to more or less come back to something approaching a normality. And everybody already agrees on that. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, even American studies already agree about it. Some are saying that if we stopped now, it would take until the end of the year, maybe next year, to go back to some sort of normality. If it goes on for another 4 weeks, then we should start thinking about years of disaster ahead. So that's it. We are in the path of, in another 4 weeks, the amount of disaster inflicted on the global economy will be irreversible, with unimaginable consequences, especially for indebted countries, countries that have no access to oil and gas, you name it. It's terrifying, Nima. Can you imagine? Because essentially, if we want to narrow it down, essentially because of 2 war criminals, most of the planet is plunged into this dark void.